Yeah.
replacements.
But once it goes in one house, then
Yeah.
4 or 5 others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Replaced by somebody else.
But once it goes in one house, then 4 or 5 others.
Yeah, yeah. That was pending. Yeah. Hear that?
Yeah, the sidewalks are looking good that are going in. It's
When
going
did
in.
they get started on West?
Yeah, both sides, they were.
Works Department or?
Hi, Alan. Welcome. I just want to test our sound with you.
Yeah, they cutting down branches off that big one. Behind the Valley Bistro.
Hi, Sammy.
Yes.
Hello. Yeah, that
Thank-
was weird. It just muted it, but I didn't do it. I swear.
Great. We can hear you fine and you can hear me.
I can. Yes.
Thank you.
We'll call the city council meeting to order. This meeting will be in person and through Zoom. To participate by Zoom, you will need to pre-register by 3 p.m. the day of the meeting. Now I will call it to order at 6:02. I would like to start tonight's meeting with a moment of silence in honor of Ray Smith, who passed away on October 27th. We'll just take about 10-15 seconds and think our own thoughts. For the Pledge of Allegiance. So I'd like to have you all stand. Right. Of the United States of America, to the republic for which stands one nation under God, justice. That has particular meaning for me on this election night and exercising our privilege to vote. Sammy, would you please do roll call?
We have Nancy Bell,
Acting mayor, and then Counselor Alexander is absent. Counselor Blaine is absent. Counselor Fox,
Present.
Counselor Lehman,
Here.
and Counselor McConnell.
Here.
There is a quorum.
Thank you, Sammy. As per the 1992 city charter, as council president, I will be performing the functions of mayor until a mayor is elected or appointed. As acting mayor, I will not be a member of the council and I will not be able to vote unless there is a tie, and I do not count towards a quorum. 5 city council members and 3 will make a quorum, and we do have 3 tonight. Thank you for that, Sammy. I did want to just take a few minutes as acting mayor to, first of all, say thank you. Thank you to each of you present tonight. Thank you to the community members for your support, for your ongoing optimism and your ability to continue to function as a community in spite of the changes that we've gone through. It was really hard for all of us to lose Mayor Smith. He was a very loved member of this community. He was a strong mayor, and I'll be acting in that role for a bit of time. I do also want to thank our staff. I want to thank Ann. I want to thank Sammy. I want to thank Brian. I want to thank Larry. No one has missed a beat in all of this. The functions of the city have gone on without any kind of interruption. And I think that is the mark of a very well-run city. And I think that that is a legacy that Mayor Smith has left for us. I found as I was going through Mayor Smith's files that he left for me, I wanted to just read some thoughts of his. To make a difference, you have to make good decisions. You have to have public input, and you have to have strong dialogue among counselors, among staff, and from citizens. Biggest to him, the biggest part of success for anybody is to have ownership. And ownership in a decision has tremendous value. Even if you didn't, quote unquote, win and get the outcome you wanted, you feel reward if you were part of that decision. So please continue giving your input and participating in meaningful dialogue, because that demonstrates ownership. And I think those were really strong and wise words. And I think that that's something that I would like to remember. And I know that most of us, or all of us on council, would certainly like to remember, and community members, because the city is only as good as the involvement of our community. So, okay, having said that, I'm going to move on and tell you that funds are budgeted for city councilors to participate in trainings. And there, Sammy has left me, and now what have I done with it? But oh, here it is. League of Oregon Cities has several trainings. There is a training for elected officials, and that is in Albany, and that is on December 6th, which is a Tuesday, and it's from 7:30 in the morning till 5:30 in the evening. So I know that's a long day, but I think that's something that could really benefit all of us. I plan on attending that. So I hope to see some of you there. But if you're interested in that, just let Sammy know and she'll help you get signed. It was pretty easy to sign up, I will tell you. And I think that those could be really meaningful trainings for us. Sammy, are there any changes in tonight's agenda?
My mic down here. There's 3 things in your red folder, council folders. One of them is under agenda item number 5. It's the resolution 2228. The second one is under agenda item number 8. It's the current contract for the Coleman Street water line replacement. That bid process had just closed, and so on the actual printout, I think Counselor Fox asked last time if we would note the page number to insert those into the packet. So that is on the top also for page 55.
Thank you. Thank you. That is very helpful, Sam. Thank you
Good.
for
We
doing
have
that.
one more. Is agenda item number 10. Anne had some additional information she wanted added to the finance report. So again, it's to be inserted under page 59 or right there.
Those are standard bank statements that I provide the council, and I was unable to get them off the bank. We were having an IT issue. I wanted to get clean copies. And so in time for the packet, so I provide them to you now.
Thank you, Anne. Banks, credit unions have all been going through a lot of IT update and increased security measures, and I've certainly had my share of issues trying to get information out of my credit union. Or reset passwords or whatever. Okay. Do we have any citizens testimony tonight?
We do not have anyone signed up for testimony.
Done the agenda review. So let's move down to the consent agenda. Everybody had a chance to review the packets. Counselors, do you wish to remove an item from the consent agenda or have any proposed amendments? Not, I will entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda is passed. And our special guest tonight is representatives from Rain.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name's Aqsa Khan, and I will be the presenter for tonight. First of all, I wanted to thank the mayor and for having us and respected council. We are delighted to be here and present to you about the progress that we've been making within the city to support entrepreneurship and innovation. I have a presentation aligned, and if you have any questions along the way, please feel free to stop me. Apart from that, we also have an entrepreneur who is going to be testifying about Rain Services, who is based out of the city of Coburg. And lastly, I would invite our Deputy Director, Robert Killen, who's also a resident of Coburg, to talk a little bit about his vision for the organization. So I would like to get started.
Thank you.
Can I have? It's like, I don't have them memorized.
While we're waiting, can you remind us what RAIN stands for?
Yes, so RAIN is Regional Accelerator Innovation Network. And this wonderful picture is from summer. This year we had hosted Business After Hours, and maybe you can see some friendly faces. Next slide, please. So this is the team that is supporting Coburg's entrepreneurial development. Our model is always to keep growing and to focus on what's next. I am the West Lane County Venture Catalyst. So what a venture catalyst does is that I catalyze the entrepreneurial business community. I get more people involved with the city resources, community resources. I provide one-on-one mentoring and coaching. I put on events. So that's a little bit about what a venture catalyst does. And then Kiran, who's our deputy director, he manages the whole VC team, which is the venture catalyst team. We are now a global nonprofit. We started originally from Lane County, Oregon, and now we have expanded to Washington and also internationally. Then we have Avery Pickett on our team. She is the policy maker education director, and Sean Tate, who is our entrepreneur advocate. In the last recent year, we have also started doing advocacy efforts on behalf of entrepreneurs to help reduce the barriers that are stopping entrepreneurs from starting their own business or stopping businesses from growing. In later slides, I will be talking more about the advocacy efforts as well. And then we have Anna on our team who speaks Spanish and is our DEI engagement manager. And then we have Darren, who is our marketing and communications lead. And our newest addition is Heather Blake. Heather has previously been the entrepreneur in community for the city of Vanita. With her huge success working with vendors, holiday markets, and other community events, we have extended her services to the city of Coburg as well. And we have already started working on next year's vendor market plans. And also she's going to be helping out with this year's holiday market plans as well, as that is her area of expertise. Next slide, please. So RAIN, Regional Accelerator Innovation Network, our mission is to partner with communities such as yours. So once again, I thank you for inviting us in and giving us the privilege of serving your community. Our mission is to catalyze entrepreneurial ecosystems, to connect entrepreneurs to resources. We have a lot of language abilities and people coming from different skill set on our team, so we can promise to serve a very diverse group of entrepreneurs and business owners. And lastly, to contribute to the creation of a prosperous economy. Next slide, please. As we know, we all love bonfires, especially in the winter months. The reason why I have the slide over here is that to realize that we can't do this work alone. While I might be putting on events and doing workshops and going door to door to meet entrepreneurs, we are all in this together. So if you know anyone who's started his business and wants to start a business, this is where we need your help. So for you to bring them to us and for us to come to you and say that this policy is not working for this business owner, and maybe there's something that we can work around to change that together. So our idea mission statement is always to work together and enhance each other's strengths. This is Jenny, and she's an entrepreneur. These are all of the things that she has to do by herself, which, as you know, being in a small city or being an entrepreneur or business owner yourself is very, very hard to do. And this is where we come in, because I meet with those entrepreneurs and I let them know, hey, you are not alone. If you need workforce support, or if you're looking to diversify your investment portfolio, let me know and I will keep an eye out for you and try to look for more resources on your behalf. Next slide, please. So as of right now, we have a current ongoing MOU with the city of Coburg. So these responsibilities include implementing the rural entrepreneurial development model, which is an ongoing process, and we have been working on that. Stakeholder analysis on behalf of the city of Coburg. I regularly meet with staff from Lane Workforce, with other community members who are very involved and working with the city for Lane County. And I advocated on those resources that we need to have a workshop in Coburg. Here are a few venues where we can hold that workshop, bringing folks in from Travel Oregon for them to talk about which grants are open right now and how more business owners can take part in that. Then doing more community outreach about those resources available, surveying what resources entrepreneurs need more. Sometimes that's sending out resources in the mail, and sometimes that's just going through door to door and asking people what they need. And then Rain shall conduct educational events. So as of right now, we have completed 2 accelerator programs. Accelerator programs are 10-week workshops that are happening online where entrepreneurs can learn how to learn out. So we held 2 of them. One was, the number one was called Rainmaker and the other one was called Moneymaker. Rainmaker was focused on marketing efforts. If you already have a business, what can you do to do more outreach around it? How can you connect with more vendors outside of your region? How can you expand more? Moneymaker was most focused on how to deal with your finances, how to save more money, how to diversify your portfolio. I'm not the expert on that, but I did attend all of those workshops, so I did learn a lot. Next slide, please. I wanted to highlight some of the rain events that we've had in the past and the ones that we are planning to do. So you can see Moneymaker, it ran from July 27 to October 5th. We met every week on Wednesday mornings, and in total, I think we have 175 participants take part in that accelerated program. This was from all over the state, but we had a very diverse participation from all the communities that we serve. And then we have Entrepreneur Meetup. This was from last year, December 17th, sometime near the holiday market. It was at Blue Valley Bistro. And then we held the business after hours in June. Other than that, I also hosted regular entrepreneur meetups at Blue Valley Bistro for more one-on-one communication, mentoring, and coaching, and honestly, sometimes recruiting. Next slide, please. So our motto is always what's next. We are hosting right now a holiday market vendor bootcamp. This is based out of demand. We are meeting twice a week to talk about what are the ways to increase sales, what are the best marketing practices. And Robert from our team is leading that program as well, and he can talk more about that. Apart from that, we also have the holiday after hours, which I wanted to invite you all to as well. And that's why I have the picture here as well. It is going to be on November 30th at 6 p.m. So it would really help bring more community support and to keep the momentum going if we have all of you show up and talk a little bit about how all the efforts that you're doing to support the business community. And lastly, I had mentioned about the advocacy piece of our team. So we are, RAIN is a part of a national coalition. It is called Start Us Up through America's New Business Plan, and through which we talk about on a national level, we talk about what are the barriers to entrepreneurship and business ownership, especially in rural communities or of communities that are of a smaller scale. Our policymaker educational director, Avery Pickett, I would like to invite her in to any upcoming council meetings so she can talk a little bit about our advocacy efforts, and she can also hear back from you about all the work that you have been doing. So I will make future arrangements for that to happen as well. And lastly, we have also we realized that here in Oregon, the biggest gap for entrepreneurship or business ownership is access to capital. So we have also launched a platform to help entrepreneurs raise capital for their businesses. It is called RainCap, and even though it is a very selective process, but we are working very hard to deliver solutions towards entrepreneurs. Any questions so far?
Where is the holiday business after hours located? Where you'd like to have?
Right now we have, the MOU is also to support, business activation. So we are thinking of hosting it at Coburg Commons. Have you been to that spot? It's at the Methodist Church.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't remember
yes.
the
I
address.
do go there for yoga.
Okay, yeah. So you've seen the big room. It's a beautiful spot, and I thought with the holidays it would be very appropriate. Yeah. Yes.
Since her location has yet to be identified and it's thought to be Coburg Market this.
So we have an existing mailing list of all the people who take participation in our programs. I usually get their email and their phone numbers. And then I also do a lot of door to doors. And then I market the event through with the help of the city and Main Street. I get on their newsletter, and I also print out flyers and again go to the all the businesses in town and hand them flyers and invite them in. So that's what we've done in the past, but we're continuously working on making those marketing pieces stronger. Next slide, please. Okay, so for this slide, I would like to invite Josh, who is an entrepreneur based out of Coburg, to talk a little bit about his business.
You got a whole picture of me. So my name is Josh Glaspie. I'm an entrepreneur here in Coburg. I'm actually an investor and a real estate agent. I grew up in Cottage Grove, moved to Eugene to go to the University of Oregon, and then I eventually settled in Coburg. Ox has actually been really helpful as like an entrepreneur, getting me connected with different people in the community. There was an event she did down in Cottage Grove where we got to meet different people that we were looking to either like hire on for like our marketing team or hire on as like an employee for us. So yeah, like Ox's and Rain is awesome resource for us. So yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say about that. Keep it short and sweet.
Thank you so much, Josh. And if you have more questions about his business, he would be hanging around. So you can talk a little bit more, or you can meet him at the business after hours. I'm recruiting him to come. And then I would hand it over to our deputy director. Thank you.
You can just go to the last slide. Counselors, it's wonderful to see you. As Oxa said, I'm Robert Killen, Deputy Director, and I do happen to live here on West Mackenzie. Been here for 8 years. I was the president of the chamber. Some of you may not know that I was president of the chamber for 3 or 4 years. Also was the originator of Coburg Conversations several years ago. Been with Rain since March, and my reason for standing up is to share with you what I feel is truly differentiating about Rain, and it also might influence how you interact with us. I was the director of the Lane Small Business Development Center up until March. Love the program. There's always going to be great value in having that deep well of mentorship. I knew there was something special about Rain, so when I was asked to join them, I jumped. And what I have found has reinforced my suspicion, which is that Rain provides, what Rain provides that is truly unique is 2 things. We are an organization that listens first. And there are a lot of organizations that say they listen first, but it only counts if you actually act upon that listening. In our space, in the world of economic development, of resource organizations, there's a lot of listening that ends up leading to the same thing they would have done had they not listened in the first place. There's a lot of that happens. Rain truly listens and then acts upon what they learn. As examples, very quickly, out in Grant County, we're running a set of street fairs because that's what the cities that we're serving wanted. Oxa this spring hosted a business boot camp for artists and creatives in Florence because that's what they wanted. In Lynn and Benton counties, our BC up there ended up project managing a series of marketing videos for the cities that he serves to spotlight or highlight the entrepreneurial potential in those communities. None of those things were in our playbook. They were a result of going into the communities and listening to what's the needle that you as a community want us to move? And then we can custom deliver a solution for you. So far in Coburg, Coburg is a very unique city because of our proximity to Eugene. It doesn't need all the same things that, say, a John Day needs. Our demographics are different and unique. And it requires even more listening. So I'm encouraging OXA and our team to be very proactive about listening and asking and investigating so that what we can provide are solutions to improve entrepreneurship, entrepreneurial activity, small business success in Coburg in a way that Coburg wants, in a way that is important to Coburg. So as you think about RAIN, think about us as a partner to do the work that needs to be done. That's the second thing. The first thing that differentiates us is that we truly listen first. The second is that we actually have people on the ground doing the work, which again, a lot of organizations in this space, they sit behind desks and wait for people to call. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's hard to get stuff done. And we have people in the community on the ground, knocking on doors, having conversations and getting things done. And I'm very proud to be a part of the organization. I wanted to share that with you tonight. Thank you for your support and let me know if there are any questions.
I would like to know how RAIN and Main Street and what used to be the Chamber of Commerce, but I guess is now Main Street,
Yep.
how they interface and interact.
I'm so glad. I meant to mention that. I'm so glad you mentioned that. I actually went to the Main Street Convention and spoke there at the beginning of the month, met Tracy down there. OXA has been having regular meetings with Tracy for the last year. We actually consider ourselves, although it's not a formal relationship, we consider ourselves the economic arm of Main Street. Tracy doesn't have the entrepreneurship ecosystem building expertise. It's a rare skill and it's what RAIN brings. So we can come alongside her and support the businesses in a way that she might not be able to. So we consider that partnership to be very robust. And you're right, the chamber is sort of folded into Main Street now. Having been the chamber director, I have mixed feelings about that, but I understand the necessity. And I feel like we've got a really good relationship through me, all of the partners that have been involved in both of those organizations.
Thank you.
Yes.
How long has the concept of venture catalyst been around?
So venture catalyst, it's a great question. I know it's been around for at least 10, 12 years. The first time I heard the term was when I was living in Bend, which was 9 years ago, and before EDCO hired a venture catalyst. And their job was a little bit different than ours. Theirs was more sector strategy. Their job was to go out and find a sector that needed support and then rally that sector together. And in Bend, the first one ended up being outdoor retail, outdoor and recreation retail was their sector. So they rallied around that and then provided support. It has since taken on a slightly different meaning in other economic agencies, and it's specifically focused on innovative startup, high growth traded sector, tech-based startups. But in rural, it makes more sense to broaden the definition of a venture to being anybody who's doing business and needs to expand, because rural has more Main Street type businesses that need support. So we take a broader definition, but to cut to the chase, at least 10 years before that, I'm not sure.
And is one of the roles of a venture catalyst to put entrepreneurs in touch with venture capitalists?
We do. Actually, Nathan Lilligard, who is one of the authors of the Oregon Capital Scan, which is every 2 years at U of O, they do a scan of all of the capital resources in the state. He's actually just came on board as our capital access director. Both he and our CEO, Caroline Cummings, are very familiar with all of the VC firms around the state. And although I don't know if it's been published yet, we just received a grant from the EDA called the Capital Challenge Grant, where we're putting out an RFP for venture firms in the Portland area. We are providing funds for them to manage a $20 million venture fund, specifically targeting tech startups with women and BIPOC founders. So we're definitely in that space and believe that if people are looking for capital through VC funds, we have as many connections as anybody could have in the state. Well, any other questions? Thank you for your time.
So I do have a question for you. Sorry, Robert. So can you tell me what are your greatest successes here in Coburg?
That's an interesting question. I think I would like to give an example of, and I do have the entrepreneur's permission before I speak that. There's a local entrepreneur who is an architect and also a planner. She actually got a really big project based out of Oak Ridge pretty recently. And because I knew her and her portfolio, I was able to make that connection. So sometimes, as business entrepreneurs, our idea is always to bring in more money. So that brought in more money and more capital towards an architect who's based out of Coburg, and also for them to get more connectivity and more resources across Lane County. Yes, thank you.
Any other questions? Comments? Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Appreciate the presentation. That was interesting. I learned a great deal, actually. Our next agenda item is ordinances and resolutions. So we have resolution 2022-7, a resolution approving the final payment of the purchase of property located at 91430 Stallings Lane, Eugene, Oregon. Ann, you're going to present on that? Thank you. Had to ask Ann with Stallings Lane, Eugene, or Coburg, so assured me it was.
It's Coburg Community with a Eugene address. That's what I say. So this resolution is to pay off the property. This was a plan from the beginning. The agreement that we had, and we are nearing the time when we need to pay it off. We don't pay it off, then we would start paying interest. That was the agreement. The development of site, this gives Brian what he needs to be in charge of the property, to make decisions about fencing, security, buildings, all of that. And so we think it's a good idea to go ahead and move forward and pay it off. The funding for purchase of the property, Business Oregon. So when we pay it off, we will turn that in for reimbursement. Questions that you might have on this, it's pretty simple. And it was set up as part of the original agreement.
I appreciate that they print out of the details of the purchase and the additional considerations. Yeah, I found that to be very helpful.
I just, I think I need some clarification on number 11. Buyer and seller agreed, seller will have responsibility. So is the seller remaining on the property and then will be?
Yeah, so part of the agreement is that the seller, we bought it from a trust.
Yeah.
So One of will remain on the property. There's a mobile home there. So it's their lives. In the lease agreement, which will come up at a later time in the meeting tonight, there's a certain amount of area that will be included in a lease. So they will lease the property from the city. So that, and part of the reason why the later packet materials is coming up is because our attorney really did some amendments to the agreement we had on the lease and clarifying. Because there was just some things that we thought we should make a lot clearer. So that is in this packet as well, and we'll discuss that later.
So this is the site of the third well. and
Yes.
Also the future building that's supposed to be built.
Maintenance building's actually going at the sewer plant. This is not going to be the site of the maintenance building.
The acreage on this lot again is,
It's approximately 5.25, I believe. Very near that.
so for the well, and what do we have for the acreage there?
Well, around the well site, there has to be a certain amount of space that you can do nothing with. So there would be a big parking lot. Is that 100 feet, Brian? 200 feet?
The area will be, 100, it'll be 220 feet, from the back edge of the property.
And then a park. also there.
Yes. I've been kind of holding people at bay on the park because we needed to get the well done. But yes, the intention was that the front end of the property would and could become a heritage. And that is part of the agreement that the city agreed to that. At this time, there isn't a park. And what we need to do is pay for the property to get the well done. So water will pay for it. Sometime down the road, the city will have to have a discussion on whether or not from the water fund. That's down the road. It's a discussion for the future. But once the well is and we can get committees starting to discuss the Heritage Park, then they can move forward on that. Right now, Park and Tree Committee you have a focus right now. I think the Heritage Committee would be very interested in getting started on this conversation.
And live in until their natural lives.
Yes.
divorce or, Don't move it, it becomes city. Plan to utilize that for some reason, or do you want to remove it?
Yeah, we don't know at this point. That would probably be decided fine. It just depends what kind of shape it's in, if there's a use for it. I mean, the agreement says they will remove it within 30 days, I
There's a
believe.
pretty good sizable. Well, there's also a home structure there is correct too.
Right.
And that's not currently being occupied.
There is a caretaker in that house right now. Through December 31st. I have talked with that person and let them know that the lease is going to change, and that if they were to lease, it would become a lease with the city. That person is going to be moving out. And that it, like I said, in the lease agreement, when we discuss that, it'll talk about it, but I think what we will have to do is a short-term lease with that person because they can't move until February. They're having a new house built.
We have plans.
Why don't we wait on those questions, Counselor Lehman, until we get to the lease agreement.
Yeah.
I think that
Well, I
makes
mean, that we
probably
can,
sense.
this, I
Wanna
can also
dovetail
answer it too, but, right now, we, Ian and I are having discussions about that.
And this is not suitable for the water tower. We're looking at doing down the road. Right. Oh, it needs to be on the other side.
I don't know.
I think it, in order, Brian, help me here, but I think it needs to be as part of the loop system. And so I'm assuming that the other side of the freeway was.
Anything else?
Yep.
Counselor Fox? No? Okay. All right, then at this point, I would, take a call for a vote.
I'll make a motion. Move to approve resolution 2022-27. Resolution approving the final payment for the purchase of property located at 91430 Stallings Lane, Oregon.
Second that. All those in favor signify by raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution passes 3-0. Our next resolution is resolution 2022-28, a resolution naming the Coburg City Council Chamber, the Ray Smith Council Chamber.
So this was a red folder item. It was a very simple resolution. Council made a motion at the last city council meeting and voted unanimously to name the Coburg City Council Chambers, the Ray Smith Council Chambers. This is just a formal way to get it on the books. So historically, it's there, process is laid out. Dedication is scheduled and a new sign. Brian's working on some new signage for here, and that's for the December meeting.
Discussion? Questions? We're all pretty clear on that. With none, I'll entertain a motion.
Resolution to honor and recognize Ray Smith and naming the Coburg City Council Chamber, Ray Smith Council Chamber, for his dedication to the city of Coburg.
All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed? Hearing none. The resolution passes 3-0. Next council item is the real estate lease agreement, revised addendum. Now we get into the meat. And thank you for that.
Of the closing documents, when we signed the sale, we also had a lease agreement. And as we got closer to with the payoff that we would enter into this lease, I asked our city attorney to go ahead and re-review that to make sure that it was what we wanted it to be. The property owner also had a little bit of clarification that he needed and in an addendum. And so we spent some time talking back and forth that addressed some of the things that needed to be clarified. So just a couple of things. electrical services will be split. And we will have our own electrical service, and that needed to be a little bit more clarified. There is a caretaker in this historic farmhouse on the property, and this is allowed by the original agreement. However, at the time lease takes effect, the caretaker will need to vacate. And the city has notified this person. And like I said before, will have our attorney help us drop a simple lease for a short time for them to stay there. So some of the changes in the agreement that took if they had someone living in the house with them at the time of their death, if one of them was living and they had a caretaker, when that person dies, the caretaker cannot stay in the house. They have to leave. And what would happen in the event of a divorce between the two? One of them can stay on the property. We're clarifying the insurance that they must carry on their lease. Clarifying the dashed area. So in the picture here, it's in your packet,
It's on
but
page
in the red
49.
dash, it shows the mobile home, and then there's a lean-to building. It's could be a shed. It's more of a lean-to, open-sided. It's where the historic tractor for the property is parked. They park their lawnmower there, and they have some of their own storage in there. The city will retain possession of that, but allow for the leasee to use it to store their personal effects. Part of that is that the tractor eventually will come to the city as part of the heritage and historic. And so it's under that cover. And they don't have any other storage, so we agreed to that. Let's see.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
You've talked about in case of divorce or in case of death. What happens if one party of the lease is incapacitated for some reason and can no longer reside in the residence? Is that included in our lease
Well,
agreement?
if they leave the property, if they move from the property, then the lease is done. If one of them had to be in a nursing
yeah.
home and the other wanted to stay on the property, then they can do that.
Okay,
Yeah,
so if both of them leave, then that's done.
it's done.
And it can be just one person staying there, irregardless of divorce or death. It could be because they had to go into assistance or something like that. Okay, and that's
Absolutely.
clearly spelled out in the lease.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that was kind of the purpose for this amendment, is those exact things. Those were the big. And what happens when these things happen? Their concern was that the agreement looked like it said that only the two of them could live in the. What if we need a caretaker to live with us? And does that mean we can't have that? And so they asked that be clarified. Do you want to talk anything about any of your concerns? I think that pretty much that covers up. We were just trying to, it was really clarification of the lease. The payments for the lease will start July 15th. We prorate the lease. Part of it is they are covering the insurance on the entire property through December 31st. They will have some expense with the electrical until that gets split out. And so we just felt like $500, prorating $500 was not really worth it. So the lease payments will start on July 15th.
Question
Councilor
on the lease amount. It seems really small and I'm wondering, does that put us at any risk for someone coming back and saying, that doesn't seem like a fair amount? You're gonna tap for this party, we want you to do this for something else in the future.
Well, I think that there's some background history to that. Number one is the city had a really hard time finding a piece of property that we could get that was appropriate for the well. So this is where we could get the water we needed. So it had a value to the city. The city bought the property at a pretty good price. And part of that pretty good price was allowing the person to stay on the property at
Okay,
a,
so there's some background there that
yes,
will be in the records if it ever comes up.
absolutely. It's in the original agreement. So, you know, these people, it's income, and they're going to stay on the property. That helps the city out as well because there's always someone there. And so they're calling attention to Brian if something is going on that shouldn't. So there's a value to the city to have them there. And the city did receive a value on the property.
Basically, looks like space rent. I mean, they're leasing the space that their mobile home is sitting on.
That's
And I
absolutely
don't know what, fair market value on that is, but $500 a month seems, or a year.
It's a year.
A year.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But the other piece is the city does not own the mobile. They do.
Right, yeah,
So,
right, it's
and
just that.
it could not be
piece.
part of the sale. And so it is their home. It's not ours.
I just was concerned that it is a low amount for an annual lease. It is a low amount, but with all of those other circumstances, then no one could come back and say it was not a fair, equitable.
Anything else?
I'm only asking this because I don't know where I'll be, in the council. A lease indicates that the mobile home should move within 30 days after it is vacated. Because we have historic stuff there and.
Yeah.
I wouldn't belong on that.
I wanted to check if it was either 30 or 60 days.
right, well,
It needed to be gone pretty quickly.
I think it's 30
Yeah.
if I recall.
And since what I heard was a historic tractor, hopefully we would have the vision to build a structure that's tasteful around the tractor and get rid of the lean-to. That's my 2 cents.
Well, and that's,
Get to that point.
yeah.
Just because I don't know where.
The lean-to in itself was built in the do you remember 60s?
Pretty
And
historic.
Jeannie McKibben remembers standing on the roof of it as her dad passed up the shingles to roof it.
Retract my comment.
Any other questions, comments? Hear any? At this point, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the revised agreement to the real estate lease with Joseph and Joseph one. The property located at 91430 Stallings Lane, Eugene, Oregon. Is that loud enough, Sam?
Good job, Councilor McConnell. Second by Councilor Lehman. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Any opposed? No one else here. That seems a little redundant, but so the resolution passes 3-0. Well, Ann, are you on for the
Yeah, I'm on for the
1973
evening.
water bond number 43 payment request?
So we this to council several months ago. The city sold water bonds in 1973 to fund some water infrastructure. Those bonds were due and matured in 1999. There was a bond out there. We had no idea who it belonged to whatsoever, and we had no information on it. When I got to the city, it was on the books, and eventually an auditor asked, and Kathy Taylor also asked for, you know, who owns this bond? Who, you know, and we just didn't have the at that point, or enough information to research it. Another had passed away, and he documents. It's a $5,000 bond. With the information he provided us, the staff was really able to go back and get some research done. We were able to nail down to the ordinance. And we were able to start looking for how the city paid the interest, how it was budgeted. And the interest was paid on this bond, but the bond number 43 was never paid off because nobody ever asked for it. So at this point, they are asking for it. Attached to this is an attorney's letter requesting payment of the. It is approved by council. Sammy will get in touch with her and she will provide the city the original bond. That is a requirement that they have to. But it will be the very end of the 1973 bonds. Sir.
They're asking for $5,000. It says interest of 5.4%.
The interest was paid. We were able to find enough documentation in storage to show were made. Yeah.
Well, how many employee dollars did that take to find out all of this information?
It was actually really fun, and they were all on little. So we would have to go through these coupons until we found numbers, and so anyway, so there was paperwork. 1999 and before that, where it showed that the city paid the interest on bonds. So we were able to determine that the interest was actually paid as it should have been up to 1999.
I don't know very much about bonds, so my question is 26 years from issue date to maturity date. They pay $5,000 and then they just got 26 years.
Yes.
It's not like they paid 1,000.
No, they paid 5,000 and then twice a year they were paid interest.
Wow.
And they did that twice a year for those 26 years.
Yep. Actually, this bond wasn't sold until it was a 1973 bond, but this one was actually purchased later. They were issued later. So there was a series of bonds that were released at different times. So this was a later bond. So it probably wasn't 26 years.
They say in here, but what was the total amount we gave out in bond?
That's a good question. And I know the answer, but I can't pull it out of my head. I believe it was $274,000.
That was like a trip down memory lane.
Yes.
Historic documents, I
Yes.
think, we should put those in the archive.
That's what I was gonna ask. I assume when we pay for this, we get a copy of this, we should bring it.
Get the original.
Yes, we get the original. So, yeah. 225. Yeah. Okay.
Any other
Yes.
questions or comments? I do want to note, and thank you, Sammy, for letting me know or reminding me. Kathy Engebretson and Alan Wells have joined us on Zoom. And maybe Alan was here early and Kathy came in a bit ago.
but they are also participating or listening in on Zoom as citizens.
We can't talk about either one.
You shouldn't talk about them. No. Okay. At this point, I would entertain a motion to go ahead and pay this 1973 water bond.
I move that the city council approve the payment of a 1973 water bond free in the amount of $5,000.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. 3 in favor, anyone opposed? None. The outcome is 3 in favor and nobody opposed. Oh, Counselor Fox. He was being very quiet. And looks like, Brian, you're going to update us and give us a staff report on the Coleman Street water line replacement contract.
Yes.
Thank you. Lots of holes being dug around here, I noticed.
Yes, lots of construction. This one's going to be a fairly large water main replacement project. So this goes from Thomas Street all the way to Mill Street on Coleman. So this project realigns the streets that come off there, so and I think there's some reconnections on Lincoln and McKenzie. So we're gonna lay valves in on Delaney and Dixon so we can tie in later on a different project that you'll see probably late spring, early summer. So this is just approving the contract for the contractor that had the lowest bid. You guys want me to details?
This was a red folder item, the contract.
Just out of curiosity, how much was different between the first and second bid? I know we take the lower bid, but
It was pretty competitive. I think it was $75,000 somewhere around in there. This bidder and the highest bidder, it was about $200,000. So it's competitive. Again, this is another project that came in under the engineer's estimate. So we're really happy about that. Don't think that we've got a project yet. Engineers that exceeded the engineer's estimate. So that's a good thing.
This will be a major impact for people living along Coleman.
Yes, it will.
Wrong in presuming this will take less than 7 days.
Yes, it will. It will take 7 days. Yes.
what is the expected?
Substantial completion. So I'm guessing that sometime in January is when we're going to start. So they have those couple months to get that done. Yes, sir.
Just ignorant of all this. What is all the iron for? Festival iron.
All the iron.
Yeah, it says ductile iron. Iron.
All iron is pipe. So that's an alternate to the C900. And we can't get the alternate would be alternate.
So this is a fallback?
I believe so. Don't.
Page, well, I don't
Oh,
know.
I
don't
see.
a
The
page.
ductile iron reducer. So those are not, that's not actual pipe.
Oh.
So the pipe fittings that the C900 would go into.
It says ductile iron bands, is that just a?
Yeah, Yep.
Okay.
so that's how they make those. So they're steel kind of bends. Yep. Stuff as we move, yeah.
So Brian, what happens during that 3 months when that construction's going on? What? Will it be block by block or
Yeah.
will they?
Yep, so
Okay.
we'll start at Thomas Street and work our way north. That's the plan.
So how do residents get in and out of their properties?
Well, it's going to be up to the contractor to residents through the city, kind of like we do on. Or to work with. Yes, sir.
Council Fox?
The pipes go down the middle of the street or inside?
Well, so no. So we'll jump across from one side to the other, depending on where the sewer line is.
So it will be basically like when the sewer line is installed, there will be notification when it's going to happen.
Yep,
and
That is
the
correct.
planning.
Go back to the Iron Cross. They're really expensive little items, aren't they?
Well, yeah, so I mean, we're living in a world of just gone through the roof.
Is it truly a 12-inch by 8-inch,
Yes,
$2,750?
Yep.
That's the
It should be in the future.
the hard part's gonna if we can even get those, right? So we're hoping that we're not any delays due to supply chain issues.
where the bins come.
Say,
We like that.
Well, I just have one question about, the fact that we always have to take the low bid.
mhm.
How do we, as a city, go about guaranteeing that we're getting a quality product? Thinking about what we ended up with, Bike Hub, because we had to have a low bid.
That's a great question. So won't talk too much about the bike hub and the oversight that didn't happen there, but on capital projects like the water project, it starts right as soon as the bids are open. Work and make sure that the contractor is going to meet all the requirements, and there's a lot of requirements that they have to meet. So then we go into with the city, and right after the contract. The contractor, the city and the engineers meet, and we kind of go over what the contractor is going to do. So they'll give us their timeline. What they're going to get done in that. Also invite other utilities to kind of join, just to be relocated. Get into construction, and this is where having a branch does not let the contractor miss anything. So it's you do pay a premium for that, but the product that we get at the end of the day is a much better product. So is expecting certain things to be changed. Miss on pipe, I think there's plenty of pipe out there for this project and other. This is becoming hard to get, so we might have to it's on our design standards. So we call out a certain type of brass, we might have to go with a different manufacturer for brass fittings and stuff like that. So those are the things that could delay the project.
As long as we have branch.
Yep.
Oversight, then.
Yeah, I'm project, the McKinsey project, I'm there daily, talking with the inspector, talking with the contractor. We got really lucky with the contractor on the McKinsey job. He's very work with, but I think work with too.
I wanted to mention to the counselors too, that the city holds a retainage on all projects, capital projects. But we don't pay out the project until we make sure that that the engineer has signed off and Brian has signed off and said that this is okay. The other piece is that all contractors are required to place a bond. And so that the city has the option to actually attach that bond if we have to, if they fall short of what they were supposed to do with the project.
Yeah, so then we go to construction, then we go into walkthrough, and we'll compile a punch list for the contractor. Let loose.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? If not, I will entertain a motion to accept the contract.
I move to approve the Coleman Street Water Line Replacement Project contract between the city of Coburg and Pacific Excavation Incorporated.
I will second that. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Didn't specify which hand. Specify that. No. Any opposed? None? The vote is passed, approved, 3-0.
Love those questions. During any one of these projects, if you guys want to, be more than happy to walk you around the construction site.
I'll just walk outside.
I was gonna say, yep. There
I
you go.
just walk around Mackenzie and take a look, and now they're digging big holes over by Pavilion Park. What's that? Or a trench, I should say.
So that's part of the stormwater. So we have to have an infiltration area. Water that goes out into the street, out into it might go to Vintage, somewhere there it breaks and goes one way or the other. Anyway, that's just a giant rain garden.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I noticed there was semi-permeable.
Yep.
So now we have administrative information reports. And first up is Police Department quarterly presentation. Larry?
This is the third quarter police report. So it goes July, August, and September. You see the first page shows again the categories that we divide into 7 different categories for all police activity. It shows the actual stats for the third quarter and a comparison to first quarter, second quarter. Traffic stop, person stops is up quite a bit. I think that is due to us working about 212 hours in Oak Ridge, because that was all overtime. So that was additional activity that came into the total staff. You can see the police department's pretty busy. There's always society crimes went up just a couple points. Overall crimes went up about 25. And then below that is kind of a list of some of the calls that we've responded to. That's not an inclusive list. That's just, and there might be multiple thefts or multiple of those particular crimes. On the third page is the department hours, how we spend our time divided up into the pie chart. Harrisburg Patrol for Q3 is up. That was due to some community events with the 4th of July parade that they have and a harvest fest. So we did some additional work within the contract, but additional hours for the 4th of July that made the third quarter a little bit higher. Court varies. It just depends on what we have for trials. So next quarter, it might be up. Sergeant Lee had a trial for 2 days in circuit court last week. So we just don't have any control over that. It just depends on what kind of cases go to trial. So that kind of fluctuates, but it's relatively small for the third quarter. I'm sorry, Oak Ridge, just to give you some of the stats, the officers worked 212 hours up there in Oak Ridge. That was all overtime paid by the city. Their activity was 29 traffic citations. You driving while suspended misdemeanor. I don't think they're in your stats, but animal complaint, 2 DUI arrests, and 4 physical custody arrests. They worked a rape 1 case, death investigation, stolen vehicle, motor vehicle accident, restraining order, and a transport to the University District on a peace officer hold, which was a mental hold. So quite a bit of activity up there in Oak Ridge. Then I think at the last meeting, Councilor Lehman asked for the stats regarding the pedestrian crossing education that we did. So it was 17.5 hours, and that was through the ODOT traffic safety grant, which had a speed enforcement component, a crosswalk, pedestrian safety component, DUI enforcement, and I think seatbelts. So for the crosswalk, it was 17.5 hours. We wrote 1 citation, 29 crosswalk warnings for people that didn't stop for pedestrians, 2 other citations, and 5 other warnings for other traffic violations. So those are the stats from I think it was just a day or 2 that we did that with, you saw the big yellow sign. So they had plenty of notice. And then the police clerk was our pedestrian and was wearing a big orange vest, kind of playing the game of Frogger. And so he was very well marked, and we still had 29 warnings on a citation.
So anecdotally, the people that were given the warnings, what was their response to why you stopped at me?
Well,
On the
I
crosswalks?
don't know the answer to that,
What
but
would you assume, that they just were not aware that they had?
mostly it's people being impatient and want their travels to continue, and they don't want to stop. That's what I think it is. I think that they're just impatient. If you're not actually in the roadway, they're going to continue on and try to get the next person to stop.
I would agree with you watching.
Yeah, right.
Watching people. Councilor Fox.
Hey, I just love the report with the graph and all the
That's all Ann.
data details
That's all her. That's all
You're
me.
such a statistic.
on this stuff. So just a curious question, the Oak Ridge Patrol had the exact same number of hours back at the end of June as they did in September?
No, it started in July and we ended in August. We were only up there for 2 months, so it was just probably a typo. It was a total between the 2 quarters of that many hours.
Okay. And what was the US Marshal Task Force?
Sex offender registrations.
Oh, okay.
Are you still serving? Oak Ridge? That's-
No, we only did, it was just a short period of time, a stopgap while they hired a couple employees because they were down to 2 employees for the whole city.
Where are we?
Good question. I don't know the answer to that. Last time I called, they said it was had a build date and I haven't heard from them since. So I will check. Hopefully it's not a supply issue, which I think it is.
So
Oh, sorry.
I did have a question. Around the pizza parlor. I walk out of almost every day and there's really been an increase in speeding through there and in ignoring people crossing the street. And there's so much activity on that street with I don't know whether it's because the streets don't align. I know it's confusing, but I'm really concerned that there's going to be a pedestrian incident there.
Well, I was surprised they did, part of the pedestrian right out here. They did a little bit by the school, but down by Cobra Pizza was where they had the most success. So I would agree with you that that's an area of concern that we're trying to watch because that's where we had most of the stops. And I don't have the exact number as far as what location. But that was where the majority of them was down at Cobra Pizza.
Yeah, and they're speeding when they come in through there.
Yeah.
And there's lots of kids right there for the bus in the morning. And I just really am concerned about.
Yeah,
that.
I'm always concerned with that. Thank you.
So Chief, can I just ask one question?
Yes.
Were your officers impacted by the fire, the Cedar Creek fire that was
No,
going on up
Not
there?
at all.
Okay.
Yeah, they had reached out for a little bit of help, but at that point in time, the officers have worked so much that we kind of decided that it's bad as the Holiday Farm fire. You know, it's still isolated, so we just chose not to, they could have used the help, but we chose not to participate.
Thank you. It's quarterly presentation. That's from Anne.
I have a little bit of a PowerPoint, which John will love because it's all graphs. It is the end of the first quarter, and in the budget, that means 25% should be expended or collected. It doesn't work that way in Coburg normally. Number one, we're in a capital project era where our capital projects are being expended out and then reimbursed. And there might be 3 months in between that. So revenues and expenses aren't in the same quarters. They're often split out. So overall, the city is 12% of the revenues and 11%. Let's see, no. Percent revenues and 13% of expenses. So generally, I want to see no more than 3% split there so that all expenses and revenue. Not, so the beginning of the year is always rough. We're in the Jason months. We've discussed Jason many times since I've been finance director. This is the first year and I'll go over it. I have some PowerPoint to show you that the Jason months have been really tough. This is a tough time right now. waiting for the tax dollars. Some reason for that, and I will share that. Overall, things are within budget. We're not, it's early in the year, hard to put analysis on years when the first 3 months are kind of slow. It's sporadic this year because we do have water reimbursement out there right now. We're waiting for, we have street reimbursement we're waiting for. That I keep being told any day, we're gonna get that any day. So it's a little bit different right now. So we have to really watch the bottom line. We have to provide analysis. We have to watch the dollars. We have to make sure that when we're paying bills, that there's money in the bank to pay the bills. And that there's investments coming in and we're aware when those are coming in and making sure we're getting on time. So we're not waiting for 6 months for bills that we paid 6 months ago. So that in itself is currently a big need. And so we'll stay on it. That it's just part of the capital project era that we're in, and we have them. We have them in water, we have them in streets, and we will have them in parks starting in the spring. So it's a big responsibility and one that I think that we'll stay on. So I wanted to go over on the big screen some financial stuff just to make you aware that about the general fund, because the general fund cash is the lowest I've seen it in a very long time. It is the end of the adjacent months. We are looking at receiving tax funds any day now. But there's some real reasons why, and so I point out up here, I don't know if that's
Marcus, can you see that online?
I can see it, but I can't hear her. She walked away from the microphone.
well, then I'm trying to,
But yes, I can see it.
okay.
Counselor
Thank you.
Alexander. has
So if you
given
can
us
just
the
go down
info.
to the first slide. This is just revenues and expenses comparison. So what I said is overall city revenues are 12%. Go back. And overall expenses are 13%. You can see from the general fund that our expenses are higher than our revenues because our main revenue dollars, and we haven't received those yet. Street fund, the expenses are up 17%. And our revenues are only 6%. That's because there's a $500,000 reimbursement out there that we're waiting for. Water fund is, we actually have received big reimbursement and haven't paid a lot of water bills out. And that's actually changing real soon here, but that we just had kind of a lull in projects. And so, but we received a big reimbursement at the beginning of the year. It's just kind of steady. There's no projects going on right now. So you can see that the expenses and the revenues are tracking together. So that's what I was trying to explain, is that in a perfect world, track together, but right now that is not going to always happen. So council needs to be aware of that. We'll use some specific of what's going on that's making those changes happen. So we can go to the next slide. So this is just where is our revenues coming from? This is just a split of how the revenues are being received. So general fund, water fund are receiving the most revenues. If you go to the next slide, you will see that the street fund has a huge expense there. So that is a direct correlation to our projects that are taking place. Next slide. So this is a portion of the large spreadsheet provide you guys to look at. That is a 12-month lookout. It's in your packet. I just wanted to point out that in August, the general fund has a low cash right now. In August, August was 3 pay periods in 1 month. And that's unusual for August. Usually that happens in November and December and sometime in the spring, but it happened in August this year. And on top of that, we extra expense for police for the Oak Ridge, which we have billed and will receive funds for. So it was a very expensive couple months of personal services costs. Additionally, in material and services costs, our insurance bill was paid in July. No, it doesn't do that. Normally, we break it into quarters. Additionally, our entire software bill was paid in. So we could pay that in quarter. We can ask to request to pay that in quarters, but it was paid in full. And so that money is, so those bills are paid for the year. And our workman's comp is paid for the year. All of our property and liability, our software, fortunately that puts us cash poor. So slide, I want to show you that while that is the case, this is a short version of that big sheet. And if you, at the end of the year, well, it shows that we're spending a lot right now. When those tax dollars come in and you look at the end of the year at our ending cash, the projected cash is $676,000. So we're recovering. We're going to be okay. It's just that I have at the bottom there, if you can read it, that what do we need for the first 4 months of the year? We used to say $75,000 a month that we needed to have. Well, we can see that we probably need more like 400,000, so 100,000. So things have got more expensive. So we need to make sure that we have that kind of money to get us through those first 4 months. If we look at our budgeted over at the other end, our budgeted cash, it says that we budgeted, and that we would have 660 at the end of the year. And so in this analysis, we're anticipating that if everything goes right, we would have 676. So while we're short now, we're going to be okay. But the city really does need to be aware that we made some commitments to personal services this year that we knew were going to be expensive. And on top of that, materials and services have got very expensive. And so we are on a no spend unless you have to in the general fund right now, anything that's funded by the general fund. And I suggest that we need to remain there for this fiscal year. We need to make up some space or some funds. We need to probably do a hiring freeze. And so the employees that are here, we're utilizing them. They're doing a great job. But I think as far as hiring for anything that is funded by the general fund, we just need to freeze that for right now and make up some difference.
Does
Yes,
that
sir.
include the accountant position?
Yes, sir. However, we're doing really well as a staff covering those tasks right now. I think that we have the skills in this moment, and we can look at it in a quarter to see, what we can do with that. But I think in this time, I think that it's a good idea to just wait and let the city recover a little bit fund-wise and see if we can make some momentum to increasing that amount of money we have at the end of the year that can carry us through those skinny 4 months. So that is my recommendation.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
So you said we had received water we got reimbursed for water at the beginning of the year?
I believe so, yeah.
But we haven't used that money yet to pay our water bills, right? Did I hear-
Well, we pay the bills first and then seek reimbursement. And
Okay,
then yeah, and so that's how that works.
okay, so we've been reimbursed for those bills. And then I'm curious, and you might have to remind me, but why did we pay everything off instead of doing it by quarter?
That was a finance decision to make, that the bills that got paid were paid in full.
Okay, and then you said the first 4 months, I was just curious why we did that. Because did we foresee having this issue when we made that decision?
So Counselor Alexander, I think what Ann is trying very nicely to say is that it wasn't a well thought out decision, and it was done by the finance director at that time.
Okay, I guess I was giving the benefit of the doubt and trying to figure out the path.
Right.
And then you said for the first 4 months, we generally would need around 75,000?
No, a month.
A
So
month.
we generally need to think, we used to generally think we needed to have $75,000 a month to cover the expenses. It's larger now for sure. So
That's, yeah, it isn't quite an increase, 25,000 each month. How, is it just because of the services and everything costing so much? I mean, that's a pretty big increase.
well, I think it's an increase in the amount of employees that we have that are funded by the general fund at this time.
Mhm.
So, and then the other piece of that is that medical insurance is higher, our PERS rate is higher,
Mhm.
and the cost of living is higher, and our materials and services are higher. So our contract services are higher.
That's
So
it. Yeah.
so the city is, I mean, I think we do a really good job of managing what we have, but we are a small city.
Sure.
And so we are not the only small city that struggles with these last few months of the year. It's pretty common. And so I think the management is you have to be looking ahead. You have to be looking at that cash analysis ahead. And especially in those last few months of the year, you have to be really on top of it.
Are you directing that statement towards our finance director or?
No, I'm not. I'm not. It's in general. It's in
Okay.
general. You have to be doing this analysis and looking ahead.
One more question. Okay, thank you. And one more question. So since we're going to do a hiring freeze and everyone's going to be working extra, is there going to be an expectation of compensation for that extra work when the hiring is unfrozen, or are we going to be looking down the road at something to offset the extra work that your staff has had to do?
So at this time, I think that we're not working extra hours. So we have a staff member who was a bit of a sleeper. We have found her to be extremely intelligent, and very talented, and learns very fast.
Okay, so the hiring freeze really won't affect us then because we have.
in the near future, no, I don't think so.
Okay, thank you.
I have a follow-up question on that. If someone were to leave unexpectedly for whatever reason, would you continue with a lower without missing person, or would at that point you?
Absolutely. I mean, we're going to keep our capacity there. I'm not going to let my staff be driven into the ground. If we need to increase hours or whatever, we'll do it. And Sammy's right here and she's in the front office now. She can also speak to this, but we're getting by fine. And it's not. Yeah. it gives us a chance to gain some momentum financially for a few months and actually also take a step back and see how we can divide tasks in the office and really take advantage of duties in order to meet the recommended accounting principles that supports. So I just think it does allow us a time to step back and really think about how we will manage this. And I'm not talking about long term. I'm
Right.
talking about maybe till the first of the year or something like that.
It does
And-
sound like we have a potential personality really step up to the plate in these areas where potentially
She has been very supportive and very good, very smart person.
So this only it only really puts on a hiring freeze. How long are we going to run without any cash?
He should be receiving funds any day now. So I mean, it's short term. It's the majority of our tax dollars for the general fund come in November and early December. So 84% are received in that time. So when our budget is approximately $950,000, there's a substantial amount of funds that are received in those months.
Is there, when your finance director makes decisions, does he pass it by you first, or he has the power to do it himself?
So Counselor Alexander, the finance director is no longer employed here in the city of Coburg.
Is who approves,
I guess in general.
yeah, a finance director normally would look at these and make decisions. And then they prepare the checks and present them to me to sign. I do go through the bills. I'm assuming that they are making decisions when they pay those bills. So, I would say that, did I say normally we would pay this quarterly, or in the past, if we're short on money, we would pay these quarterly? We can request that. I'm not going to tell you that I said that to him because I probably didn't. So I don't want to lay that at his feet. I'm saying the unfortunate decision to pay them in full is affecting us now.
Yeah. And I guess I would say that I would want your eye on it, at least have the opportunity to have your eye on it, being who you are.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We do have a double check system for signing off on checks. So, Ann's right in saying we can't just lay this at one person's.
Right. And I'm definitely not blaming, but it's a precarious spot to be in and not a great one to be in. So I would hope that there are checks for us in the future to check the checkpoints. Let's put it that
Check
way.
the checks. Counselor Lehman.
So on the revenue side, you refresh my memory in terms of what we decided on the water rates and sewer rates and when they increased and when that
So-
goes into effect.
When we get the feasibility study and we are able to put in the costs so the first thing that needs to happen is the council needs to make decisions on what are you going to do? Are you going to build the tower? Are you going to wait on that? Once the council decides what they're going to do, we will feed the capital costs into our fee platform. That will tell us what we need to collect in fees.
All
So
we did was the placeholder for budgeting purposes.
that's correct.
Not
Yes.
a decision yet for actual.
I anticipate that the council would probably maybe be looking at that in January. Making a decision in January about that.
One more question on, we still have American Rescue Funds that we have not spent. Is that correct?
That is correct.
But I
Yes.
know that those have to be on specific projects. do any of the projects that we have going fall into?
Well, the council gave some direction on where they'd like to see them. I would like to do some analysis, and this needs to be done on. So one of the things that a city can spend those on is lost revenues. Well, I know for a fact that we lost revenues in our power franchise fees. But you have to do the analysis, and that we have time to do that. But so when industrial zone was shut down on, maybe they're only running one shift, and there's a definitely reduction in our franchise fees. And so that could be something that we can replace the revenues lost with those ARPA funds. So that's an analysis that and say, okay, here's how much money we have left. You have spent some of them, but this is how much money you have left. We can reimburse ourselves for lost revenue if that's what you want to do. So I think those are discussions that are down the road, and we have plenty of time to have them because we have until 26 to spend those funds. And so they've given us plenty of leeway to decide what is the best use of those funds for this city.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you.
Mr. Fox.
Two questions. One is future. I don't know if you do this at all, but do you ever do cash flow projections, analysis of the cash flow goes into the future based on bills and
That's what we do with the sheet. What we do with that sheet. So, yes. The problem with this is that sheet was not.
okay. The other one is the sheet that was behind Councilor Lehman had June 2021 and September 2022. Is that how it's supposed to be, or is it supposed to be?
No, I don't remember what it said, but it's probably
Bottom line on
just, I don't have that sheet, so.
It was in the
It's
slide
probably just
projection.
dates. I needed to update the dates when I did that.
yeah, was that
Typo. probably.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I actually created this for the first 3 months of the year, so
Okay.
that was me.
Those are the things that make squirrels run around in my head, so.
Have no squirrel running.
Yes,
Anything else? Any
I
other
don't
questions
think so.
for
I'm
me?
happy to answer anything else. We will be okay. It's just that it's an uncomfortable place to be for me. And it's not where I want to see the city. So.
We appreciate that. And then there's the administrative monthly report. Were there any questions on that? Lots of things going on within this city, and all you have to do is walk around and look in trenches and holes and all of the limb trimming and all of those things happening. Ballots are out and today, or next week or next month, we'll know what's going on, not only in Coburg, but across the nation, hopefully.
We have a date for the retreat. identified?
Sammy, did we come up with a date for the retreat? It's usually early February. I think that's correct. I think I put it in my,
Starting at what time?
usually we start. Where will you be? Oh, okay.
February 5th, we said.
2023. February 5th is a Sunday. So it must be the 4th. Yeah, I have council retreat. And I have tentatively 9 to 3, but we'll clarify those
On Saturday, the 4th.
Saturday, the 4th. The council retreat. And we should have a pretty busy agenda for that retreat. So there's been a lot of gotten the coop done, and we've gotten the charter done, and that goes into is on the ballot at this point. And so there's been a lot of work done.
Preliminary numbers in about, you guys leave, I'll have a printout for you.
Right. Okay, any other questions on the administrative report? So upcoming general election results, and then we'll have the comprehensive and zone map amendments. And that'll be a public hearing, and those will come in December. Were we planning December? City Hall will be closed for Thanksgiving on the 25th and 26th. I don't plan on coming up here to share turkey or anything with them. They won't be here. So if there's nothing else for the good of the general order, again, I want to thank everybody and for the support, for the patience, for the perseverance as we've gone through these last few months. If there's nothing else, well, I guess I should ask, are there any counselor comments? Anything that anybody wanted to share? I would just like to say thank you to you for keeping this on. And a big thank you to staff for everything you've done through this period. Staff has been absolutely tremendous. Thank you to each of you as counselors for just stepping up and moving on forward. I do have a couple of questions, and I think Brian and Ann, mostly things maybe for you, Brian, as I've walked around neighborhoods, I've gotten questions from people wondering, first of all, neighbors on the west side of Coburg have wondered if there could be speed signs for 15 miles an hour like there are in some of the east side. And I think that speaks to what Patty was saying too, particularly with the construction and heavy equipment moving down some of the side streets. I mean, people have noticed that, detours and people flying through.
Yeah, so it would depend on what street they have. I mean, we could look at it.
I mean, where I was hearing it was down Austin. A lot of people cut through on Austin and then come up Abbey and then sling up Mackenzie, West Mackenzie. And so that was sort of the people that I was hearing from. So that's a question, and certainly not an answer tonight. And I've also heard, and I know in council, we've heard this previously, question about the paint fumes. I know some people are much more sensitive to the fumes that are down coming as you walk the trail. It goes over Muddy Creek and around Serenity Lane, and so that area. And I've had several people that live down there say, well, they've contacted El Rapa, they contacted DEQ. They were told, well, there isn't any monitoring, but they are permitted to emit fumes. So I wondered if we as a city could do anything if El Rapa or DEQ to monitor for a certain period of time, 30 to 90 days maybe. Or if we could ask the company to monitor and share those results with us, or if they could redirect or perhaps filter those fumes in a different way. I mean, I walk down there and they don't bother me, but I know they do bother some people.
Yeah, we can definitely go all wrap that. Come down and do.
Well, what I've heard from a couple of different people is, well, we called them and they said, well, you know, they're permitted and no, we don't monitor. So I don't know if that's, I don't know.
Okay.
Well,
We can definitely look
okay,
into both of those.
all right. Thank you. And then I can give an answer when I'm asked again. It's industrial way, and I don't know which company does the painting.
I'm sure it's Marathon.
Well, I think it's the one right here. It's not the big marathon.
It's another.
There's only a couple manufacturers.
And they're all right there, sort of
In
in,
that same
yeah.
industrial zone.
oh,
Just other next agenda, I'd like to get an update on the noise issue. Quantitative information.
okay. Seen a decrease in complaints or? Pardon?
Quite often. Pretty willing. The struggle that they have is not. Like the employee, they show up and start. So it's a constant. They're not letting. That happens.
That sounds like a total management issue to me. If the employees are on the clock and they should.
I can tell you that. They are. Problem with it is residential. Backed up to those. I don't. I can.
Need one of those I-5 concrete walls. They only cost about $8.
About
Storage.
centimeter.
They're not made of cast iron, really.
Okay, Sammy,
So just a preliminary election update. Both of our measures are passing and all three of our counselors on the ballot are doing well. And then we have 285 write-ins for mayor. So
Are they all for Mayor Bell?
candidate running. I have no idea. I'm sorry. I was being facetious. I have no idea if there is, but that's a great turnout. And that bodes well for the community. I'm happy to hear that. Well, if there's nothing else for the good of the order, we will adjourn this meeting. I will remind you, we're going to have an executive session for counselors. And we'll probably take about a 5-minute break and then do that. So we are adjourned at 8:04.
What was the issue with the bike? What was the issue with the bike?
Looks like you have this.
Yeah,
One in the park with the.
but thank you.
So Marcus, I will
Yeah.
be shutting this down.
Okay.
Just the recording and the live stream. So then you will just be in here as far as the executive session.
Do you want me to stay on here?
Yeah, if you're available,
Yeah,
that would be great. Yeah, I marked you in. Good. Where are you at?
Montana.
Well, see, I was telling him you were in